welcome into the Owner to Owner podcast, a very significant milestone for me today. I don't want to talk about me too much, but it's episode 151. And after 150 episodes, I've had a name change from Small Business Banter to the Owner to Owner podcast. So it's great to have Gabe Enslin in from the Adapt Way as a very special guest today. Thanks so much for coming on, Gabe.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
What we're going to talk about today is your business. You're the continuity founder at the Adapt Way. You can talk about this in a sec, but what the themes for today and align very much with the work you do and that I do are building resilience into small and medium businesses.
That's right.
Working out how to build a what does it take to actually build a resilient, scalable, sustainable business? We're going to talk about the return on investment for owners who make that investment into making their business more scalable, resilient, scalable, etc. We're going to cover off on a couple of key terms that come up all the time when I think about and read about Adapt. It's stewardship and succession thinking, which I think are fundamental to the way you go about your business. So enough of me, Gabe. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your own pathway into Adapt and the Adapt Way, please.
Sure. Allow me to start by saying that I'm mega stoked to be guest number one on the Owner to Owner podcast. Also, Congratulations on 151 episodes. That's unbelievable. Thank you for having me on.
It's a really significant conversation, and thank you so much for taking the opportunity to say that. So I appreciate it.
Sure. I guess my backstory is very colourful, really. I started off born and raised in South Africa, moved around the country quite a bit, had professional parents, not business people or entrepreneurial parents, but they had a very big entrepreneurial spirit. And they passed that on to us. Subsequently, as a school kid, I had 4 different businesses, some by myself, some with my brother. Bought confectionery wholesale and sold it to my mates for a profit. Would grab bicycles from the tip and repurpose them and then sell them for a profit. Looked after people's homes when they went on holiday, had the paper out, all that sort of stuff. Great fun, learned a lot of valuable lessons, sacrificed time with friends, playing and muck around in order to learn how to earn and provide for yourself and that sort of stuff. But grateful for having, I guess, adopted that attitude of life from my parents. We moved to Australia when I was 16, finished schooling, took a job for a couple of years, went overseas for a year, came back. And then my brother and I started our first grown-up venture, a transport company in Tasmania. We were the first to provide a dedicated people transport from the northwest coast of the island to Launceston Airport, which at the time was the main international airport down there. So built that, ran that for a few years, then sold it. Then we started an import business and had to close that in the middle of the global financial crisis. We just couldn't get reliable shipping out of Africa. Took a job to put food on the table, got made redundant within 3 months. Had no job in the worst economy Tassie's seen for years. Yes. So I remember sitting at the table and looking for jobs going, I don't know what I'm going to do. Managed to find one in a not-for-profit. Worked in the not-for-profit for a number of years, ended up hopping from sister company to help solve some problems, which turns out I was okay at. Ended up working for the parent company and did a IT rollout of a CRM across the whole group. By that stage, I was 26. I was in the boardroom. I was set for a good corporate or professional career, and I had this itch, sense of adventure. Want to do something for my community. Want to make a difference in the world. Wanted some risk and adventure in my life. As a kid, always dreamed of being a detective, but in South Africa, that was never an option. Now I'm in Australia and I've just seen my best friend do it. So I decided to, if I didn't have a crack at that, I would always regret it. At the time, my family had moved to Western Australia, so I applied. And after a couple of years of dogged persistence, I got into Western Australia Police and I served as a local police officer and detective for nearly 8 years. And that was an extraordinary adventure, very difficult, very rewarding, learned a lot of stuff. Ended up starting another tech business on the side in immersive technology, and ultimately closed that because of owner non-alignment. It turned out what me and my partners wanted were different things. So another interesting, valuable lesson there. We're still friends to this day. And then I knew that the journey in the police would not serve me in terms of what I wanted to achieve in the world. And I knew I got drawn back to business. It's where my passion has always been, small business in particular. So I got the opportunity to join a local tech startup, and we ended up building the travel management app for Western Australia in the middle of COVID, and then also the Track Trace Safe WA app in partnership with WA Police and WA Health. And that was a insane 20 months of tech development. And I think at the height of it, we serviced over 2 million users. So it was absolutely crazy.
That was all in, right? 18 hours a day or whatever it took.
Yeah. I remember one Easter weekend, I was at home, working from home, and I didn't see my wife almost the entire Easter weekend because we had people stuck on the borders, wow. Families. So yeah, it was just go. I learned an amazing team that I got to work with at the time, and I learned a lot of stuff. And you know, I still knew I wanted to work with small businesses more broadly. That's just a yearning that I couldn't shake, and I was looking for a way to do that. And at that point, I was introduced to Bill Withers, who's the founder of Adapt. And Bill had already done 7 years in this business after successfully building 2 other very big global businesses. And he was looking for somebody who was willing and probably mad enough to continue with the vision of Adapt, which is just to empower as many SME owners around the world to build resilient, sustainable businesses that can give them what they want. We met. We immediately knew that we had similar values. We wanted to see similar things in the world. And we spent nearly a year of due diligence on each other to make sure that this is something we wanted to do together. And then ultimately,
was that by design, or that's just how long it took? It's a big commitment, and it's pretty hard to put a time frame on these things. But if it takes that long, it takes that long. And that was however many years ago now. So that was
2001. Yeah.
So
well, actually, we met in 2020, at the end of 2020. Yeah. Look, absolutely both. So the team here had Bill's succession as part of the strategy for about a year before we met. So they took it very seriously, and to their credit, they put me through my paces. I think I had 8 interviews and multiple meetings with another recruitment support operator and psych evaluation, testing, and all that sort of stuff. So it was important for Bill and for his leadership team to get it right, because it's a big job to come and take on. It was important for me to get it right, because I wanted this to be my next couple of decades. And I wanted to make a good decision, not just for me professionally, but also for my family. So there was a lot of design around how we did the due diligence, but we also, acknowledged from the get-go, we wanted to be absolutely sure that we were happy to get married, because that's what we were doing. And Bill had to trust somebody else to carry the vision forward, which is no small commitment.
And look, a prenup, or whatever you want to call it in a business sense, is great. But you don't really want to ever have to rely on that. You want to go into these things having done what you need to do to find out enough about each other to say this is going to work. And
we're talking about resilient business, right? If you have any desire to build something resilient with another person, then having your relationship dictated by legal clauses is not the answer. but having your relationship rooted in a similar vision and similar values, which you cannot disconnect from because it's part of your DNA, that's far more robust.
Yep. It probably, if you extended that out, you may even get to the point where you could do a handshake agreement. I'm not necessarily saying that's what we would advise, but it sounds like you go through an extensive due diligence period, and you work out how the other person or people operate, what drives them. Same, back to you, and you can become that deeply aligned and connected. It's almost.
Michael, we're a pretty transparent bunch at Adapt, so I'm going to be transparent about this. We had very much an experience like that. We ended up with such high trust in each other that we moved ahead on a lot of stuff and then co-developed the legality around it. We ended up co-building our shareholders agreement after I was in. Because the relationship was built on trust, not on contracts.
And I'm guessing it wasn't. This thing about trust is so vital, and it may not exist right now, right? And it probably shouldn't. You should have antenna up, but as you go through an extensive process of getting to know your potential business partner, you are indeed building, or not, an understanding of how much trust and what kind of trust you have. It's remarkable. This idea that you do or you don't go into business with someone you trust it's the thinking. You need to go a little bit deeper. You need to say, of course we don't know each other. There's some things that we share or some interests that we share, but then how do we get, and in getting to a point where you do or don't deeply trust or trust at a level you need to trust, then you're building a much firmer grounding and base for the future. So
yeah, and it takes time.
It should take time, right? Yeah. So that's my morning coffee, Gabe. Excuse me. All right. So you met Bill. Let's just talk about Adapt and the Adapt way. What it's all about for somebody listening in hasn't heard of Adapt or the Adapt way. You're based in WA now, and you've got a business of. You talk about the fundamentals of Adapt and what you're all about at Adapt.
Well, gosh, it's actually really simple. At its core, we're trying to raise the levels of trust in society. I'm the kind of person that wants to do good in the world. Bill's the kind of person that wants to do good in the world. So is everybody else that works here. We figured out that we're good at people and we're good at business. And so we decided, well, that's how we will do good in the world. And one of the things that we see in world, in particular in business, is that trust is low and society descends into transactional or return on investment thinking. And we just felt that wasn't the way to build a good society for the long term. So we've embarked on this mission to help as many small, medium business owners around the world as possible to build the kind of business that is resilient in nature and that can ultimately give them what they really want for their life. If we can do that, then those businesses will not only survive and beat the benchmark, but they will go on to thrive. And if they thrive, they contribute to their immediate communities in a great way, and also to the national and global economies in a great way. But also the owners become happy, fulfilled, at peace. They go home with that mindset. They have headspace to continue to innovate, to come up with more great ideas and more great contributions to their community. The employees in those businesses, they are happy, they feel fulfilled, they get to do their best work, they're engaged. And they take that home with them to their families and to their immediate communities. They don't drag their school bag home and then kick the dog on the way through the door, sort of thing. So it's this incredible ripple effect that we believe can be had if we're able to help as many small medium businesses as possible build these kinds of businesses that can genuinely thrive, and they don't need the owner. The owner gets to choose how much or how little they are involved.
Yeah. So where does that start? Like we're in total agreement for, to have a more resilient SME economy, which is made up of, in Australia, 2.5 million micro, small, medium enterprises. So without all of those business owners being, in a position where they're fundamentally sound and happy in their business, we're going to risk a lot of things. The personal well-being of the owners can suffer. The communities that they're a part of can suffer. So, but where does this idea of resilience? It's got to start. Does it have to start with the owner, and does it have to start with some deeper conversation and reflection about why they're actually in business for you to get on and do your great work?
Yeah, absolutely. So first part of that question, yes, it has to start with the owner. And we know this with conviction because we have started with the leadership team and not the owner. And we've learned the hard way that ends up running into all sorts of trouble. Because at the end of the day, we define entrepreneurship as somebody who has a vision, wants to see something realized, and they're willing to deploy capital in service of that vision. And between the deployment of capital and the vision lies a risk. Right? So somebody's willing to take that risk, we consider them to be entrepreneurial. Now, ultimately, the owner then has the decision rights in the business, have the decision rights about what can and can't be done. Now, if you don't start with the owner, then the owner can ultimately kill very good work just because they've not bought in. So if the decision right sits with the owner, it's important to understand, well, what does the owner actually want? Why did they start the business in the first place? Why are they doing this? Why are they spending 8 hours a week in the business? And what do they want their life to look like? If they want their life to look like they're still working this many hours, sure. But I've very, very rarely ever had that response. Most of the time, owners want their businesses to be as valuable as possible, in really good shape so that it is saleable if and when that opportunity comes around. But primarily, they want some financial independence so they're not stressed about money and their family is provided for. And they want the freedom of choice over their time so they can spend time with their loved ones, the ones for whom they're doing all this work in the first place, rather than being a slave to the job that they've bought for themselves. And quite often owners they started a business because they were a technician or they were a master at a craft, and now they're stuck leading and managing and they hate it. They don't want to do it. It doesn't make them happy. So sometimes owners would like to own the business and be a master craftsman or a technician in the business, but they want other people who are better at it to lead the business. And quite often you'll meet owners who just wants to see some impact be had in the world. They have a vision. They want to see the world change in some big or small way, and they want to be able to pursue that rather than feel like they are bogged down by admin.
Yeah.
And so if you can help an owner connect to what it is that they genuinely want, then you tap into their true motivation. And true motivation is required to get them to change their behavior, because quite often their behavior is the first blocker to getting what they want.
Yeah. Are there other, is that the single biggest blockage, that the owner isn't in front of the right person to have a fairly significant conversation about why they're really in business? Or is that, if you can crack that, do you see the world opens up for you as the advisors and them as the owners?
It's definitely the first step, but there's a few things that needs to happen. So we meet so many owners who spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on different advisors and programs and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of the times it's, you should do this, your strategy should look like this, you should do this, you should do this. And then they try a lot of stuff and they're still stuck, overwhelmed and lonely. Very rarely do they get asked, what do you want? And so many times when we ask that question, there's this deer in the headlight moment. We're like, well, actually, I've never really given myself the chance to think about this in great detail. Now, unless you can explicitly communicate what you want for your life and out of the business, you have got no way to inform the people that work for you the direction to go in. And if you haven't got that, you can't actually build a plan or the strategy to get there. So there's nothing more important than the answer to this question, hey, owner, what do you want? And it takes some work to extract that.
Yeah.
But once that's explicit, you've got something to aim at. Now, the next thing is to say, look, this can be achieved, but you will have to be conscious of your behavior and you have to be willing to modify your behavior so that it does not block you. And then this will take work. There is no way to do this quickly. Doesn't exist. And trust me, we've looked. Doesn't exist. No way to do this quickly. So you have to be willing to be patient and you have to be willing to invest the time and the energy and the resources to make this come true. If you're not prepared to do this, then you don't want this thing badly enough. And that's okay.
Yeah. And yeah, you referenced owners getting advice for, I guess, superficial needs of the business where they might invest in some, I don't know, what they think is what the business needs, social media, marketing or something. It doesn't get to the, really, the root needs of the business. But it's a remarkable position to be in where you can have that conversation with an owner. Once you do help them find out what they really want to do, where do you go to next with the program of work that you typically undertake with clients who have decided this is for me? Now, I don't get into not into the woods, but into some detail about how I've looked at quite a lot of your material, and things like clarity of roles is so vitally important, which goes to the owner being able to see themselves in a different role, and sometimes that's about probably taking ego out, focusing on your skills as the owner on where you're best suited, to serve the business. So a couple of what are the key steps for?
I think first it just needs to be said, because we touched on this point about advisors. There are so many extraordinary advisors out there that work with SMEs who are passionate about their work. And I just think one problem that creeps in there, without a lot of people realizing, is quite often the advisors will fit within a particular discipline, whether it's legal or accounting or capital strategy, and that's their domain of expertise, and then they advise very, very well in that direction. But a lot of the time the advice is in a forward motion direction. So let's grow this business, let's grow this business, let's grow this business. And so you'll have different bits of advice that steers the strategy, the business in a direction. Now, what we find is if you actually spend the time with the owner and you get real crystal clarity of what will make them happy, the direction of what they want is up here somewhere. And so what the owners want is up here, and what a lot of really well-intended supporters and advisors advise sort of makes the business go in this direction. And the bigger this divergence gets, the greater the likelihood something's going to snap, right?
Yeah.
And so what we find is amazing is once we can get this clear about what the owner actually wants, not only do we then do the work with them, which I'll step through in a second, but we're able to empower a lot of the advisors that will serve the business already to say, hey, we need to pivot slightly and go in this direction. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the really great work that they do have got far greater outcomes.
It fits
And
with the program of where the owner wants to go more
yeah, that's right.
tightly.
Because here's the simple truth, right? If I was an owner and I wanted something, and then I'm spending time and energy and money on things that's not delivering that, eventually I'm just going to go, "No, I'm done."
Yeah.
It's the same with your employees. If your employees want certain things for their life and they work with you and they don't get those things, eventually they'll leave, whether it's in 4 weeks' time or in a year's time, they will go.
Sorry, Gabe. I think it's really important also, we chatted really quickly before we started the podcast that what an individual owner wants is vitally important, but it doesn't always have to be about massive growth or 10x or making it a $1 billion company. That's a lot of the great work you do is really dig deep. What do you want? Is it okay to keep it at the same level of revenue, but just make it more efficient, more profitable, less time for you? It's okay as well if you want to double it or triple it, but just clarity around that, is where it all starts. And those, there's a lot of, as you say, there's a lot of great trusted advisors. They've worked with businesses for years and owners for years, and they want to support the owner. But if the owner's not saying, this is not what I want to do, or this is not where I want to take it, then you have that conflict you talked about, or that gap.
And it's difficult as a professional advisor to be set up for success if you haven't got the core truth of the owner's desires, right? Most of the time it's a superficial truth because the owners are operating with information that's been sent to them from corporate logic. Grow for growth's sake. If you're not growing, you're dying. All this crap, right? Now, we interview hundreds of owners. Very rarely will an owner, once you've done the work and extracted what they really want, very rarely is it 10x my business. Almost all of the time it is, I want my business to be as valuable as it can be and in good shape. I don't want for money. I want my family to be provided for. But they're not saying I want to be a billionaire. I want time back. That's the big one. I want time back. I want to be able to spend time going to my kid's soccer game or, go watch the footy match or be at the singing recital. I don't want to lead. I just want to continue doing my craft. So that's most of the time, that's what they really, really want.
I think that, and where I often see those owners at that stage is they just want to sell their business because they're done with it. It's and really what you're all about, and what increasingly how I think about it is, let's do the good things to make your business more profitable, easier to run, less stressful, so that you can consider, you might enjoy your business, you might want to hold it, like keep that open because this idea of just flipping it when you're done with it, you can do that, and in some situations that's the natural endpoint for that owner. But
Michael, I can't tell you how often I have this conversation where when I first meet an owner and we do the what do you want thing, they say, I want to sell this thing in 3 years. We're done. We're cooked. We're knackered. We're tired. We're working our asses off. We want out. 3 years, we've agreed 3 years is our deadline, right? And we say, okay, no worries. Here's what's required. And then we'll step them through the process. In less than 2 years, sometimes around the 18-month mark, we'll go, do you know what? I don't think we want to sell this anymore. Do you know what's happened? All of a sudden, this business is continuing to do well. In fact, it is doing better than ever, and they are working less than ever. And I can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. They can see this thing that they've wanted all along. It's one of the reasons why they started the business, is they can own a business that is thriving and it doesn't need them. And then all of a sudden you're talking about dividend return over decades to provide for your family.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to have a wonderful impact in your community by owning a business that is delivering something valuable to the people that are its customers.
Yeah, you get back to that. For a lot of the owners, I suspect that's why they started, to have some freedom of time. It often doesn't work out that way, but you can make it that way. But certainly proud to be a business owner, great to play a part in the community. I can get off and go fishing on a Friday or whatever it is that it's your business, and it's this model of building to sell. There's a lot of merit in a lot of the component pieces of any of those programs, but often it's limited in its vision because it's the payoff is in 3 years or when and if you do sell. And if we got more owners doing that kind of work with you, for example, and they can get more enjoyment now. There'll be an investment, but of time, energy, and resources, but it can pay off now. And those transformations where an owner says, "Hang on, I'm back in love with my business." It must be incredibly. I know it'd be incredibly rewarding for you and the team.
Yeah, it's amazing. I said to you before, it's the best job in the world. Getting to do this work. We are literally changing people's lives. I think there's a distinction here that I want to draw out. There's a difference between setting a business up so that it is valuable and sellable, and then building a genuinely resilient business. Now, if you set a business up to be valuable and sellable, there's certain things that you need to do. And there's a lot of people out there that do that work and do really, really good work. And quite often it is aimed at a successful transaction. And then at the point of transaction, there's less work getting done on the genuine alignment of the incoming owners or the owners that are taking over. And then quite often in those instances, a business will get bought and then gutted on the other side. And even after you've sold it as an owner, that will keep you awake at night for years to come. It just happens. We've had those conversations. Now, instead, when we teach owners how to build a resilient business, a business that can genuinely thrive, that's not dependent on them, that has a crystal clear vision, a really robust and implementable strategy, an incredibly healthy culture, high-performing people and teams, good systems and processes, that business is actually more valuable than the business that was set up for sale. It is far more resilient, and most of the time it attracts the kind of buyer that will continue the good work in that business after you've sold it as the exiting owner. And I cannot tell you the impact to those owners who get that result versus the other result are exponentially greater for their mental well-being, for their overall happiness, for their feeling of legacy.
Yeah. It makes a whole lot of sense. The under pressure of everything that's involved in running a business day to day, and then you can leap to I'm going to do some stuff and sell it in 3 years' time. It becomes about the numbers and how it looks to a buyer, but those things about legacy, the stakeholders, the staff, the customers, the community that you might leave behind, which can be destroyed, are often destroyed by a buyer who's comes in and just whatever they want out of it is very different to what the business owner, ex-business owner, would like to have seen, but they haven't considered it. It's just been about getting the numbers. It's all fine, but yeah, as you say, it can really deeply impact an owner after. And
100%, it's your name. Even after you sold it, it's your name. You started that thing.
Yeah. I've seen that a lot, and it's it's kind of part of why just sometimes forcing conversations to what you really want is a part of figuring out how to where to go next. Just on today's edition of the Owner to Owner podcast, I'm chatting with Gabe Enslin, who's a continuity founder at Adapt in the Adapt Way. In terms of we talked a lot about the Adapt services. Then we kind of we talked a lot about some of the reasons you're doing it. Can you talk a little bit about a couple of maybe case studies where you've partnered with owners and like transform the business? What we want to do here is kind of give some listeners a bit of a sense of some of the great work that you've done at Adapt, and you want to talk about a couple of those?
Yeah, sure. I just realized I didn't fully answer one of your earlier questions, which is kind of the how or the process, but I'll do that very quickly and I'll give you a couple of
let's
examples.
do that.
Um, we've talked a lot about the owner and the what do you want, and that's where we start. We when we do succession foundation, we spend 4 concentrated sessions with the owner or the ownership team where we figure out so we get clear on their role as the owner and director and what their accountabilities are. And then we form the owner director team in a model for high performing teams. And then that team has to do the work of what's the vision for the business. And we help them extract and ultimately craft a really detailed vision for the business, which will inform the direction of the strategy. And then we show them how to steward their organization to be able to deliver on that. And then at this point, owners will go, okay, this is amazing. I finally have great detail of where I want the business to go. Now I need help to implement this. And then the next phase is where we do succession implementation. And this is where we help them then form a high-performing organizational leadership team, a strategic leadership team, who will ultimately craft and implement the strategy in the direction of the vision, who will lead cultural leadership inside of the business, and who will build the business way, the systems and process, the knowledge of what we do here that is remarkable, and put it in a format that is transferable. If you put those things through together, you end up with a genuine resilience framework inside of that business that will drive its ongoing performance, and the owner becomes less and less needed to drive that, because you're building leadership beyond yourself, you're building culture beyond yourself, and you're building a system that can be handed over. And so then when we do this work, some of the outcomes that we've seen, and I've got too many to mention. I could give you, 100 mobile numbers of owners who will tell you their own stories, but some remarkable ones is, in the height of COVID, we worked with a incredible med tech business who were about 20 employees at the time and had to grow very quickly, and the wheels were coming off. And we started working with them, and over the space of about 20 months, they 3x'd their workforce, 3-time increase in workforce and 3.5 times in revenue. And they were able to do that sustainably, and their cultural metrics improved over that time. It didn't deteriorate underneath such exceptional growth. And that's ultimately put them into a position where they were able to consider a transaction or a handover of ownership to meet some life changes that they were going through that served their purpose well. And they credit the resilient infrastructure that we've built that has enabled that sustainable growth. We've got another example of a food company, small business, single owner leader, completely stuck and overwhelmed in the business. And within 12 to 18 months, when I asked them, how's it going? And, what would you say about the impact of our work? He said, do you know what? I'm working way less. My business is way more profitable. And my people are way more engaged. And it makes me happy.
I think I saw that the video. I'm guessing it's the one you're talking about there just before on the yeah. I mean, and it's somebody joyous about the way their business has been transformed, which is a great thing. And the term culture comes up a lot, and the way I kind of look at culture is in any analysis I do on a business, I do 3 or 4 years of P&Ls on a one page of one tab of an Excel, and I put all the expenses, reorder them. The accountants love to have them listed A to Z, and and I can see why owners don't engage with their financials, because it just is, they know what's in the bank, but so put them all into highest to lowest. So no surprise, wages are your dominant expense. Cost of goods sold in manufacturing, but so that's where this at a primary level, you look at your business. Where am I going to save costs? And you go through line by line. You can say, yeah, tweak a bit here, and grow sales, of course. That's why culture is talked about a lot, but is so vitally important, because it's right there in that line with where all your employees are. That's where you get quantum changes in the performance of your business from having an engaged workforce, having and an owner who's encouraging that. And I think the other piece for me is that I've been really attracted to is great culture, role clarity. Everybody, you go through this process and everybody knows fundamentally what their role is all about, and then how that links to other. But it's all so much of it is managing your employees and making it an engaging place to work where they feel like they're making a contribution.
Well, I mean, there's a very good reason. Gosh, I sound like a broken record to my team, but I say this multiple times a week. There is a reason why role clarity is principle number one in the succession thinking book. It is the first principle. It is the first thing that you have to get right to enable all of the rest of the things. Whereas most SMEs struggle with role ambiguity, right to the very top, right in the owner's role. That's where it begins. And so, like you rightly said, most of the time your employees or your workforce is the biggest overhead in your business. Why would you not absolutely prioritize the optimization of that line item if you were just looking at numbers? But now there's a deeper side to this. If I was an owner who wanted to see incredible impact in the world, I can't do it on my own. I need other people. And so I have to get good at helping other people do their best work and be fulfilled and happy. If they're fulfilled and happy, they will stay with me and they will continue to do their best work. Also, if I don't want to have to do it all and I want some time back, I took the risk, I founded the business, but I now want time back for my family, I'm going to have to trust other people to carry this forward. How do I make sure those people are so bought into the direction of the business that it becomes as important to them as it is for me? And they choose to sacrifice, invest, spend their time and a big portion of their life here to do this work. Well, I have to care about what it is that they want for their life, and I have to make sure that they can get that with me. And then they will stay and they will continue to do great work with me. And when we're talking about building high performance culture, there's three key stages of that. There's the entry stage. So how do I create a high quality entry for people into my business? And obviously that means you have to become really good at hiring well. Now, I can give you that many examples of how people who have started building this discipline into their business, it's transformed how they hire. And they've never made better hiring decisions since, because of the clarity that they can provide incoming people and the opportunity they give high acumen people the chance to choose to say, I want to be a part of that. So how do you create a high quality entry for people into your system? And then when they're in your system, in your business, how do you create the environment where they can have a really high impact engagement? How do you activate their intrinsic motivators? How do you spend time understanding their aspirations? What is it that they want their life to look like? And are they getting that here whilst they're working with you? I think I said this to you before. The fundamental truth of culture is if the people who work for you, if they get what they want from their professional life at work with you, why will they go anywhere else? It's too risky. And if they don't, there is no way they'll stay. If they want certain things and they can't get it here, they will eventually go and try and find it elsewhere. Now, if you have got the ability to measure and understand what it is that they want, and you can make changes strategically to continue to deliver to that, people will stay and they will do their best work and they will turn up happy and engaged. And if you have the conversation and you can determine that what they want, you cannot give them, you can have a grown-up conversation about that, and you can help them transition to where they want to go to get what they want, and you have advance notice that you need to make a change, and you can plan for it together rather than being blindsided by a resignation letter. And then ultimately, the final stage exists in all businesses, which is people will leave. So how do you create this high integrity exit? How do you build the kind of system that when that time comes for people to move on, it is a fantastic moment in your journey together?
Yeah, yeah. This is the term stewardship has come up a few times in the book that we'll talk, that Bill Withers wrote. But and it for me, I'm sure it's got different meaning for everybody. But for me, it kind of carries with it this idea that we're in this together, and the business is going to survive. It's going to get carried on. That's and I love the concept of stewardship. Is it leading to or is it laying the ground for more equity involvement by key staff in some of these smaller businesses?
It always comes back to, what do you want? So we've dealt with so many scenarios where owners have given equity to long-serving employees because that's what they got told to do, or that's what the model says. And it's actually led to incredible problems and a lot of pain for everybody. Now, very often in businesses, you have people who are extraordinary leaders and they want to be extraordinary leaders and they don't want the risk associated with ownership.
Yeah.
And the burdens that's associated with ownership. Because if you become an owner of a business, especially if your ownership stake grows a certain amount, you will ultimately become a capital call owner, which means if the shit hits the fan, who's putting their hands in the pocket to help keep the business doors open? Those conversations never get had when people are handed equity, right? And so you have to understand, well, you as the owner, what do you want? Do you want to create the system where there can be future owners join you? Who do you want the future owners to be? How do you create the role clarity on good fit future owners for you?
Yeah.
Are they people who bring in substantial capital and acumen and knowledge and experience and values and vision alignment? Or do you want to build a system where your employees gets to earn their seat at the table over time? And then how do you design that ownership framework so that it can set everybody up for success? And then you also have to understand, is that what your employees want? Do they want ownership or equity? Are they willing to take on the role of an owner and all the accountabilities that come with it? Are they willing to take on the risk that's associated with it? If so, then you can map a pathway to that. But just handing that over or not taking enough time to think about a well-designed ownership framework and the stewardship of that transaction have bitten so many owners and caused a lot of pain and grief.
Yeah, and the way you went about your entry into this business was the right way. You said an extensive period of getting to know the original founder or the majority owner. I'm not sure of the ownership structure, but you were coming in to the business and you spent over a year, I think you said, getting to know Bill and what it's all about. And that's a grant of some options or some shares without any link back to, if I'm the owner, I'm thinking, well, what do I want? What do I get from that? And for the potential part owner to be saying, well, it goes beyond just dividends. If things go south, it can, you can get called on for some capital to support the business, and that's can be it's a big shock if you haven't adequately thought through that part of ownership, which is, it's not all about dividends. It's also about role clarity, because the pathway into being a part owner is you've got to keep doing your job as well as you did before, but also take on additional, call them governance or ownership related roles, which are separate to and different from the day to day. You can't confuse the two, I think.
It's completely different work. I think in our case, you said we did it the right way. I guess we did it the right way for us. There's a couple of things that had to be considered. Number one, let's talk from Bill's perspective, and I'll talk on his behalf, but I'm pretty sure that I'm close to the mark, and he'll correct me if I'm not. But he had a very big vision for the business. So he had to find somebody else who wanted that same thing in the world. Otherwise, I would destroy his vision. He then had to create the opportunity for me to explicitly state, what do I want? Are those two together? And do they come together to form a unified vision? He also needed to know that my values matched his own and my values don't contradict his, because if I will behave that way in a contradictory way to his values, we are going to end up in strife. He needed to know that I was willing to take risk and deploy capital in pursuit of this vision. Otherwise, I haven't got the entrepreneurial spirit that's required. And he needed confidence then when the shit hits the fan, I'm the right person next to him to deal with that. That I will rally, that I will do what needs to be done, that I will support him, that I will care for the business, that I will show up in the right way when we're in the trenches, rather than all of a sudden when that pressure comes, there's a divergence. He needed to find confidence in that, and that just takes time. Then same for me, the vision, the values thing applied, but what was critical from my perspective is I needed to have confidence that I can trust Bill to let me do the job that we've agreed that I will do, and not to keep putting hand in the cookie jar or taking away my decision rights, because if he keeps doing that, then he disempowers me and then I can't do the job. My aspirations are not being met, and eventually we will have own and non-alignment, and I'll say, look, this is not for me. So we both had to have confidence with those different perspectives. And then the next thing is we spent a lot of time crafting our vision to great detail, and then we co-created a shareholders agreement. So the legal rigor was put around all the work that we've done, and our shareholders agreement is written in our vision is written in our shareholders agreement. And we've nominated these roles of vision custodians, which Bill and I hold. We are the only ones that has decision rights over the vision for this business. And it's explicitly stated. And if at any point we want to invite future owners into the business, they have to sign up to the vision that's in the shareholders agreement.
Yeah. Look, as you can see, it may or may not be as exhaustive. As you said, it's about individual circumstances, but it's a non-trivial thing. And I think there's a lot of opportunity. We've talked about job role clarity and values of getting all of that right in a business to make it hum a bit better. But it's in terms of another opportunity to diversify the risk and maximize the potential of a business. A lot of owners do think about bringing in a partner, and it's if you can match yourself with someone who's as another owner who's got better skills over here, and you stick. It's a wonderful way to kind of de-risk, maybe get more enjoyment out of your business because you've got more of the. No one business owner has everything they need to. There are some, exceptional people, but I think having a business partner, if you can go through a process to find one and do the vetting both ways, and it's a really great next step up.
I couldn't agree more. Anybody who's ever owned a business will be able to say, yep, it is bloody lonely. It is a lonely road if you're a solo owner in a business. Now, if you can get it right, the design and the execution of bringing another owner into your business, if you can get that right, it can be a fantastic next phase of your journey, because you're bringing in somebody who's going to come and join the fight with you. You're not alone anymore. They will pick you up when you're down. You will pick them up when they're down. They bring different knowledge, different expertise, different appetites to risk, different ideas around innovation, more capital that can be deployed into towards vision. But the key is to make sure that amalgamation or that matrimony is designed well and executed well, and it's got a circle around vision and values.
And it it's the complete parallel with having a process for getting the right staff and employees into your business. Gabe, we've covered a lot of ground. I wanted to finish up with a couple of things. Your your vision for Adapt, where do you see Adapt going to over the next few years?
Yep.
What's the master plan?
Well, we're building a generational company, number one. And for us, it's about empowering as many SME owners globally as possible to do this work in their businesses. That's a very big vision. So we had to aim at something that you could measure. So at this stage, we're aiming for 2032 to be working with 100,000 SMEs, to be working with and having empowered 100,000 SMEs around the world.
Out around the world, yeah, because it's the same scenario everywhere you look. If we don't have a resilient SME economy, we have tech titans and billionaires.
SMEs are 50% plus of the GDP of just about every country that they're in.
Yeah.
And they often employ half or more of the entire workforce of that country.
Yeah. Couple of books, blogs, podcasts that you like?
Okay. Essentialism by Greg McKeown is a really good one for me. I've listened to that one 3 times, and he's got really succinct way to articulate how important it is to get focused on the right stuff. And if you're a busy business owner, then doing too much is one of your biggest traps. And I think that's something to get right. And if you're a busy business owner and a busy family man or family woman, and you've got a husband or wife and kids, and you're trying to be present for them and present for your employees, and there's a lot of balls to juggle. So getting good at, what the priorities is and how to focus on them has been great. Small Giants by Bo Burlingham is a book that I love because it tells the stories of SMEs who would not compromise, who would not follow the corporate logic, and who built extraordinary businesses by sticking to what they were great at.
Yeah. I think you referenced in a roundabout way or directly the E-Myth earlier on in our conversation about, the technician, and I still love that book and that philosophy, and it goes to the core of, what should I be doing?
Michael Gerber's philosophies are throughout a lot of the work we do as well. He's a great thinker on the topic for sure.
Yeah. If you were the head of the Federal Small Business Department, what would be your top 3 priorities to drive our SME economies?
Look, Michael, I took this question very seriously, so I made some notes. If I may.
Please.
For us, number 1, abolish payroll tax and help the government find a better alternative. It's not just, no, we'll get rid of the tax and too bad, so sad. It generates a lot of revenue, but it generates revenue in the wrong place, and it hurts SMEs. Right? If that money could be redeployed into innovation, it would fundamentally transform the SME landscape. It's not a good tax for SMEs. So that'd be number 1. Number 2, I think there would be a real opportunity to restructure how SMEs access grant funding. One of the big traps for grant funding is that it's matched funding. So you're saying to an SME, apply, and then here you go, here's a 80 grand or 100 grand or 200 grand grant, but you have to match it. Now, the big problem all SMEs struggle is cash flow. Where are they supposed to find the cash flow to match the grant? And then they just end up in more of a bind. So restructuring grant funding so that it is milestone-based or outcome-based rather than dollar-for-dollar matching, I think, and then enabling them to deploy that money towards genuine experts who can help with building this kind of resilience infrastructure into their business, I think would have a big impact. Yep. And then finally, helping SMEs to fund access to genuinely great experts on the topic of artificial intelligence and how to implement it into their businesses right now to optimize. Because if SMEs don't do that, the technology will hurt their businesses faster than they can imagine.
Yeah. Excellent. Love those 3. I love the first one particularly because you added to it that you don't just want to lobby to take it away. You want to focus. We need the taxes collected in the the right amount to do the things that need to be done nationally. But so
Michael,
many
if we get SMEs to be more successful and more profitable, the government will make far more revenue through taxing their profits than the payroll tax.
Yeah. No, but, and that's the thing. Too many of the policy papers that I glance over, they're just like cut this. What actually were you going to do to replace it? Like, or redirect it? Redirect or remotivate or rebalance. Anyway,
until we can all find a better solution, the government won't make a change on payroll tax.
Yeah. But going with take that away, but look at some other ways to generate it that are aligned is a next level approach to it. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
There's going to be a best of, at the end of the year, and it's really I've only started to ask that question in the last 3 or 4 episodes, and it's going to be a really great list to take forward.
When I saw the question, I was massively pumped about it because I think there'd be some amazing ideas to come out of that question.
Yeah, there have been already, and it's practical. It's real, and it'll make a difference. Look forward to maybe we'll do a half year review and see what's coming out. Thanks so much for your time today, Gabe. I've thoroughly enjoyed hearing about your background personally and your pathway into Adapt, the great work that Adapt's doing. All power to you and the team.
Thank you.
What's the best way? What we should do is say there is a book out called The Succession Thinking, which Bill Withers wrote, and I read and consumed in one session. I think that's an excellent starting point. So, where do they go to that Succession Thinking website to get that book, or can they get it through? How might someone? I think for anybody listening who's intrigued, and I'm sure there'll be some, if not plenty, start with the book, or so where would they get that, and how would they reach out to you?
Well, I tell you what, if they just want to, from a distance, suss it all out, successionthinking.com.au is the website where you can just buy the book online.
Yep.
If they want to, they can reach out to me directly, say they listen to your podcast episode, and I will send them a book for free, and I'll answer any questions that they have about the topic. And you can reach me on LinkedIn, Gabe Enslin. Our website is theadaptway.com. If they just want to shoot us an email, it's connect@theadaptway.com.
All right.
And I would, if I get 1,000 emails from SME owners with questions, I will answer every single one of them because I love having this conversation and I love the opportunity to just share what we know that can change the game for owners out there. So.
Yeah, no, it's you're well on your way to. I can only hope that you. We're going to spend a little bit more time together. I love the work you do and the impact you're making. So go well.
Thank you, Michael. And same to you for driving the conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah, look, it is a fun thing and it's an important thing. So we've both aligned on that, and it's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much.
Likewise.